It's Designing for Music on New HD TV, and we've got quite the cast assembled for this particular episode. Patrick Bamburak, Spencer Drate, along with Sean Mosher-Smith, who's got some amazing designs he's going to share with us today. And, you know, it's almost like the New York squares instead of the Hollywood squares. We got four here. And just welcome to the show, Sean. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, you know, Sean, tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up getting into this crazy business.
Well, I went to school mostly for fine art and illustration to college at Syracuse, and from there I fell in love with music and music packaging, and I had an opportunity to be a freelance designer, which I had never done before, design that is, but I used a lot of typography in my illustrations, and I got an opportunity to freelance design at RCA Records in, I'm going to date myself, 92. And I went in there for a 2-week design job, and I kind of never left. I was there I left as senior art director, I guess, 8 years later, went into advertising, mostly so that I could bring the experience of more rounded marketing back into music. So I had every intention of going back into music after about 3 years in advertising and marketing. And then went back to music at Virgin Records, where I was the vice president of creative. And then Virgin merged with Capitol under EMI, and I took over the responsibilities of both Capitol and Virgin before leaving to start my own design company, Echo Designlab, in 2007. So I've been doing music. I've been playing music as a bassist in bands and doing music, design and illustration for, I guess, what's that, 20 years, something like that. Yeah. So for a long time.
Well, you definitely have that experience under your belt. And
Yes.
My first question to you would be, as an album designer, and I can just go back even further than 20 years ago, what was the first album you bought? And what are the things that you like about albums and what you don't like about albums, specifically the cover, the design, those kind of things?
Well, the first music that I ever bought was a cassette. I believe it was a Beatles cassette. But after that, I slowly got into more alternative and kind of underground music not long after, and started collecting records. I remember the first CD I bought was Cocteau Twins, which kind of defined for me Von Oliver's design for 4AD Records.
Yeah.
Kind of defined my career pretty quickly, and this was when I was still in high school. I kind of fell in love with the interplay of design and music, and how it can be abstract, and how it can take on meaning as you look at it. Because a lot of the stuff that Von Oliver was doing was very kind of abstract and collagey, and I just fell in love with it. And it was a good way of mixing both design and illustration and photography, and that kind of put me on my path. I've seen a lot of things. Trends change, and I've seen a lot of design, go through a lot of different changes. And I think that the stuff that stands out to me, and the stuff that kind of still inspires me, is innovation, in different ways of looking at packaging, and something that's a little bit more than just a photo with some type on it.
I want to add to this. I met Sean I was the first judge at the Young Guns show, Art Directors Club, which has been a series every year with young designers. and it was like I think Sean, it was 95 or 96, somewhere around there, and I saw your work. It was really outstanding, and actually I worked with Sean and hired him to do some CD packages, and I mean one or two books. He was amazing in my eye, and I saw the vision of him. And when as he's grown into today, he's expanded his graphic knowledge also. But I wanted to bring that up. He's a phenomenal designer that I've seen in my life, and
Thank you.
And also Sean. Zach brought up, which is very interesting. One of my favorites that I follow also. Probably like the other one would be Peter Seville, right, Sean? Peter Seville.
Yeah, I mean that's probably my without knowing it at the time, everything from the Joy Division, New Order, and all the stuff that was happening with Factory Records. That stuff was the simplicity of the design. Was early on was pretty amazing, and that stuff is still timeless. Timeless.
Yeah, it's true. Very true.
Sean, I'm going to take a bit of a different trajectory on this line of questioning, because usually we don't have too many album designers that will say that they're musicians, right? And I think that you're really interesting in that you play the bass. So therefore, my first question is, how does your knowledge of playing the bass, and let's call it musicality, influence your design and how you go about creating your vision for an album?
Well, I don't necessarily play that much anymore. I was in bands for years and years, and it's funny. What made me stop being in bands, I think, was starting to actually design for record companies. I think I couldn't do both very easily in bands that were playing around New York and at CBGBs and all the clubs back then, because I'd be working at a record label all day, and then I'd go to practice in the evenings, and then I'd go to shows at night. And then get up the next day and do the same thing, or a couple times a week at least. And I think choosing a career at the time was important, and I knew that playing music was always something I loved to do, but I knew that design and art was going to be my career, and I didn't want either one of them to suffer. I didn't want to not love to play music, and I didn't want my career to suffer. So I made a choice. But I think music still inspires me, even when I do a lot of work now that's outside of the music industry. Tons of work. Actually, music design has become one of those things that I just look forward to doing and love doing, and I'm asked to do a lot of projects. But I work outside of the music industry quite a bit now. But even the stuff that I do outside of the music industry is inspired by my love of music. Music is always playing when I work. When I work on projects, it helps get me into a headspace that allows me to be a little bit more creative, I would think, for me.
There's no doubt about it that the album cover can induce somebody to buy the product if it attracts them in a certain way. And I've said many times, and then we'll get to your albums that you've designed.
Sure.
I've said many times, one of my favorite, I'll just do this to Spencer. Spencer, what's my favorite album that I always tell you that I bought because of the album cover?
Well, it's Physical Graffiti, which
that's all you had to do.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorites. Peter Corson designed it. The die-cut windows, Zach, and it won a Grammy for best packaging, by the way. And it's an intricate album. It slides out with all the visuals inside the windows, and a classic, a great album on top of it, of course. But the album cover is an intricate package. But what's really fun about it, I think Sean would support me. And by the way, Sean's been a making vinyl judge recently, a couple of years, and I brought him in years ago also. He's been phenomenal. the 70s era was a big die cut era, right? And that, as you well know, in the history of album packaging, with die cuts and, I don't know, a strawberry box or Rod Stewart's whiskey glass shaped album, and it goes on and on. But what I'm finding out, and Sean, maybe you could support me on this, the packaging coming in the last couple of years, and I've been a Grammy judge also, I've seen it, is very intricate, well-designed packaging, right? It's not like just the front and the back. It's like die cut, and and that's really exciting, right? It's exciting to see that.
And I think you have to, you have to these days because the physical release is such a different and special piece now. People get a lot of their music digitally, obviously, and I think that you have to stand out and I think I've seen in the past 5 years, if not longer, packaging gets a little bit more ornate or a little bit more special because that's the only reason people are going to buy it, because they're going to buy the package, but they're also going to download the music, or they're going to get it on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. So the package itself has to mean something, and it's started to mean a lot more. And I think that's why there's been such a pickup, other than COVID, and people releasing a lot more music, on their own. I think that it just needs to be something that's unique, and I've seen it actually flourish in the past 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and also you yourself are doing it. I've seen your John Petrucci package vinyl, which is gorgeous. Yeah, you're mixing spot, a high lamb with matte finish and different things and design. The other thing is, I got to tell people is, Sean is very adept at visuality besides the other graphics, typography, and other. So you're also a good photographer, and I think you play this visuality also with your design. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, I started as an illustrator before ever doing design. I think that the visuals, and I still do a lot of photo illustration for clients in and out of the music industry, for Nike and for X Games and sports and entertainment stuff. That's always been very important to me, and the interplay between the message and the visual and the message, I think is really important. And I think that there's a lot of places where they can merge and become one. And and I'll show a couple examples, I guess, in my pile of stuff next to me. But yeah, I mean, the visuals, it's like I said at the beginning, it has to be more than an image with some type slapped on top of it. Right. I think there has to be that synergy between the two. Right.
Well, let's get to some of those albums you were just talking about in your pile.
Okay. Yes. Well, we've tried to do this interview and this cast for a little while, and what's held us up is I was waiting for this massive project to get to me from Germany, and I actually just got it last week. So I'm just gonna organize some of the pieces and parts because it was huge. So Dream Theater is a band that I worked with on Roadrunner a couple of years ago on one of their albums, and I started to kind of get close with the guitarist John Petrucci, and during last year he had a couple projects, and he gave me a call, and he wanted me to do his solo record. And from there work with a band that he was working with on their second record after 15 years, with Tony Levin, who's of Peter Gabriel fame, and goes further back than that. But Mike Portnoy and Jordan Rudess. So some of them are old members of Dream Theater and still members of Dream Theater, but it was a side project. So the project was Liquid Tension Experiment, and what we did, and I can show you. Here's the media book that they did. So they did a whole bunch of stuff. They did, and I'll show everything. They did gatefold vinyl. which I'll get into, but you can see some of the stuff. They did this thing, which was a beast. This is the box. There we go. And it contains so much stuff for the fan. Oh, and of course they did the CD. They did the whole thing. So I did, and I'll show it to you like this. I'm gonna show it to you in the box because that's where you can see the stuff the biggest. We did lenticular, which I don't know if you can see. We did these lenticular postcards that came in the box. It came with just like a load of stuff. Okay, I'll start here. So you open the box. Okay, there we go. You open the box, and I did all the artwork on this as well. So liquid tension experiment, obviously. I used tons and tons of liquid in my art. So the first thing was this piece, which is backed by that.
Oh wow, beautiful!
I'm gonna sit back here so you can see. So this was and all this is it holds 2 CDs and then this DVD right here. So and then from there was a media book, and then the book has the story of what they did and in the studio and during COVID. Sorry about the light glare. Wow. But yeah, I mean, it just goes on. That's John right there. So from there, we go to the poster, of course. And so it's the cover, obviously. And then on the back were all these portraits of the guys.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. And then, so this is obviously the deluxe box. Then we have the gatefold vinyl. Yeah. And then, let's see. And then, of course, we did
the color, yes.
Nice pink vinyl. Yeah. Good pink vinyl. And then it's got the band in the middle.
Wow, beautiful.
And then from there was a bonus album, which has a couple other tracks on it. And then each member got their own card. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, yeah. So each one had their portrait plus their other portrait on the back.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So you can see.
Yeah.
And let's see. Yeah. And then there's the back of the box.
All I can say is if you don't win a Grammy for this box set, I don't know what they're smoking or what drugs everybody's on. Like this is amazing. Spencer, this is the most. I've done this a lot of series with you. That is the most amazing packaging that I've ever seen in my life. And while you were showing me, I'm thinking to myself, how the hell long did it take this guy to do all of this? It's like, we need it next week.
Yeah.
What was the process?
I've had that.
How long did it take to do that one?
Yeah.
That one probably took. That one took a long. I mean, it took maybe 3-4 weeks to do everything.
That's not a lot of time.
That's not a lot of time.
It's a lot more time than I'm used to. I just did.
Right. Yeah.
I just did. Let me just say, this weekend, I did Alice Coltrane. I did her album for Verve. They gave me the project on Thursday. I sent the first draft of the whole album package on Saturday.
Wow.
And it included all original artwork that I had to create, all this painting stuff. It was pretty impressive, but I'm used to schedules like that. I'm used to the faster schedules.
Yeah.
This was also part of it. This was the media book. So it's got all the same content, but this is another way you can get it. You can buy this instead of the other stuff. So
my gosh, that's
so yeah.
amazing.
But
I mean, just all I'm going to say is that whole packaging, regardless of what the music sounds like, you just have to have it just if you love art. It's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, in my early days before I got evolved to now, I worked a lot like Sean. I mean, it would be very short time. Your contract had a certain length of time. It's usually a month or less, you know, like Sean's talking about. And I'm very. It's really great to hear that you're working on that good schedule. Judith and I are more laid back. We just finished the vinyl, and they let us have 2 months to complete it. It'd be very embarrassing. Very embarrassing.
That's good. I wish I had
It's very intricate, but it took 2 months they gave us. So I said, fine,
Well,
good, we'll do it. You know.
You know, sometimes having too much time is a problem. I actually prefer to work really fast, because then you're forced to make decisions, and you're forced to do things differently. And sometimes you get approvals faster. Right.
Well, you know what? I mean, with our album, we were really lucky. We got approval very fast, so we were early. That was very unusual.
Yeah.
Like the first layouts, right away, no problem, do it.
Right.
So, but it was more the time thing, and I really agree with you. Sometimes when it's longer, you kind of like, I get kind of itsy. You know, it's kind of like I'd like to get the damn thing done already. You know what I mean, and not worry about all that stuff. But you're right about that, Sean. Definitely right about that. And but. Again, your visuality are almost like paintings. Almost, I mean, these are like
and I'll show you more. In that realm as well. The first project. This was the John Petrucci album that kind of got me started with with that other one, Liquid Tension. And this one, as you were saying before, Spencer, the light here is actually good for seeing this, but there's all this shattered glass, which is the out image on the cover. It all is done in a gloss lamination that makes it look shinier than the rest on a matte finish, which was really nice.
Right.
So
it's beautiful.
Yeah. And then you can see it on the back too. I tried to get it on the record, on the actual vinyl itself, but we couldn't find anyone to laser etch it the way. So, and this was the interior.
I love that. I love that.
And then the albums themselves are designed. You know, these inner sleeves. I love doing inner sleeves. You don't get to do them too often these days.
That's right.
Let's see. Is this one the colored vinyl? No, this is the black vinyl. I do have colored vinyl. They did a whole series of different colored vinyls for different markets. And this is the other record. It's 2 record set. And each of the labels has its own. It's too dark to see, but has its own design. But what started that whole thing, and this isn't the John Petrucci show, although it should be, because I've done so much stuff with him. I actually just did a whiskey bottle label for a signature line that he did as well. But this is what got me introduced to them. This is the Astonishing, which was the album I did for Dream Theater on Roadrunner.
That's beautiful.
And it's another box with 2 records. And it's got all this intricate artwork with the logo. And these beautiful. But what I don't have, maybe they do that. Yeah. And then we did this. This was pretty interesting. This was a theme record. And so I developed for them very much like a Tolkien map. Because everything is there's place names for all the places mentioned on the record. It's like its own world. So I created this world for them, which was really fun. I mean, that one took a little time because they were very specific. But each record also has characters. There's whole characters throughout this whole record. So each one, there's 4 characters, 4 main characters. So each record has 2. Each sleeve has 2 of them on it. But I get the stuff I get called for music wise. I get called for a lot of rock, and I get called for a lot of singer songwriter stuff, and some stuff that's out there. If for some reason I get both of those worlds. I'm not sure how one person or how my style can fit to both of them. But Spencer, you were bringing up Korn before. This is an album I did for Korn
Oh, wow.
a while ago.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow.
And this was funny. I told them I had this really crazy idea. This is one that needed to go out in less than a week. So I had a really crazy idea of wanting to hand letter the whole album. And so I talked to the management, and you can see it down there.
Yeah.
I talked to the management and I said, just make sure you give me final copy because I'm going to do this by hand. And it always sounds good to ask for, but you never, they said yes. But of course there's changes along the way. But so instead of actually making the changes when they gave them to me, you can see the interior here.
Beautiful.
So instead of making changes to my copy, you can see all the parts where I scratched out the copy and rewrote it. And all of that still exists in the package, which was pretty fun.
I love it. It works.
Yeah.
So let me show you the Korn package. Can I?
The other one. Yeah.
Let me show you that, because we showed this on our 10 interview packaging series, of course.
So that was a first Korn record I worked on.
Yeah, and what's really great, the front and back, you got to see the songs are on the back with illustration, and then you open it up and you get a really good illustrative piece here. Yeah, and
I didn't do those illustrations, but for this one I did
you designed it, Sean. In a way, right?
I mean,
Disc art is. I love the disc art, right?
Yeah,
it's a beautiful package.
Yeah, thank you. I have another. If you want to see this one, so I worked when I was at Virgin. I worked with Iggy Pop, and actually I won a vinyl award, Spencer, with making vinyl. Their first year, if you remember, it was the first year.
Oh yeah, the first year. Yeah.
Right. And I worked with Mike Joyce from Stereotype, who was fantastic on that. But from there, not long after, the Stooges got back together to put out this record, which I designed, called The Weirdness. Wow, right. And this was good. This was cool because we printed it on actual foil paper. So, I used the original logo, which I had to actually recreate for them because they couldn't find a digital version of it. But and then this beautiful, amazing live shot inside of one of the shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was amazing to work with Iggy on all that stuff. He was a sweetheart. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. You have it,
Patrick.
Yeah, so nice. I have this in my collection. Every so often when we have the designers on, I'll have their designs in my collection. And this one is very special because I love Iggy. I love the Stooges. And I was over the moon when Sean and I talked, and he said he had done this one. So I'm sneaking it out from under the table to show him I got it too.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, this is another one that Sean did, Lenticular, right? 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yeah, and at the time, that lenticular was one of the deepest lenticulars that company at the time had ever done. It was so deep. Yeah, it's so three-dimensional when you look at it. It's incredible.
And then it folds out like you wouldn't believe into this cross type thing.
Yeah,
and you did this and graphics, But that's a beautiful. The lenticular is very deep. You're right. I mean, it's very deep.
Yeah. Now I worked with that one with my longtime design accomplice, Edward Taylor, with Soft Gold. He's still. I work with him. I've worked with him for over 10 years, and we kind of just see eye to eye on a lot of projects. So we end up working together on a lot of stuff. So at the time, he was working at Virgin with me. So I creative directed it, and then he put it together, and all the names, when you unfolded it, Spencer, all the names are their army. the Mars Army. So those were all the members, and we had every single one of them in there. Yeah. So, but yeah.
And you got final type corrections on that, right, Sean?
Oh God, I don't even want to go there. Yeah, people's names misspelled. I didn't want to go there.
Oh right. Oh my God. Yeah. Right.
So this was a fun one. This is another one that was was for this artist Autre Neveu, and it's these. I had to take few forms and kind of make them look like statues. But as you can see, we put a spot gloss on the piece of glass that they're holding. This was fun because we had all this surface area. It's a gatefold vinyl, so we had all this surface area, and we kept it so simple, gray on gray on the back. And then what was awesome to me was almost the anti-design of the inside. So this is the inside. Wow. It's just gray. It's a photograph, but it's a photograph of gray.
I love it. I love it.
So it was kind of like at the time, and even the vinyl itself. This was the interior. It looks like regular paper, but it's actually a photograph of a gray wall.
Wow. So it's like a minimal design, we call it. Minimal.
Even the label has nothing on it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
on both records.
That's great.
Was there a thing here? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So wait, no, there is some copy on one of them. Okay. That's all the credits. But other than that, that was that.
Right.
When I first got to, I'll show this one. So I'm showing you a lot of rock stuff. Some of the other stuff that I've worked with or worked on. And this is, I have to say, this is probably one of my favorites in the last, other than some of the Petrucci stuff. This is probably one of my favorites in the past couple of years. Monica Heldal. She's with she's with Warner Brothers in Norway, and the idea was to make it look like a timeless and old 60s 70s record. So what we did was I made it really simple, and you really can't see, but it's uncoated stock. But then I created this aged feel to it. If you can see, I made it look like it's a record that had been sitting around for a while. You can see the record ring on both sides.
Sean, I worked with a group called Renaissance in the early Sire days, and it had that type of photographic feel. It was kind of blurred, foggy. It's like the 60s. That's a real 60s, 70s feel. The 60s,
Yeah. And then the same with the interior and the images. It looks like this record's. Right. And it looks like this record's been sitting on been played and sitting around for a long time, because it's got these it's got this ridge here, but that's actually part of the artwork. It's not not
really? That's great. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
I think the other one had it too. Yeah. Wow. So the other one is just the Galaxy. But this was so much fun to work with. She was fantastic. And then of course, you have to talk about Tori Amos.
Yeah.
That's great. This was fantastic. She was a sweetheart to work with as well. This was a concept album that she did, but it's and that's a little bit of my own work, artwork in the interior.
Beautiful.
But yeah, and then this is her daughter, by the way, right there in the middle, because she sings on a couple of the songs on this record.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But yeah, it was fantastic to work on this with them. But so yeah, it was all shot. The photo shoot was shot around her home in Ireland at the time.
Wow,
that was fun. Let's see what else. Black Rebel Motorcycle Club.
All right.
And another one where we. Yeah. So this was fun to work. I worked with them on a couple different things, including this. This was interesting. So this was a 7-inch that we did, and when we were doing this record, this was before this one. So when we were doing this one, we did back in the day. There were record advances, right? So record or radio stations would get an advance of an album, or reviewers would get an advance of a record. What we did with Black Rebel is we only needed 500 advance records. So I ordered 500 blank wallets, CD wallets, uncoded CD wallets. They came delivered. I had 5 or 7 rubber stamps made. One was this black. This isn't one of them, but this is the general idea. One of them was black. One of them was red, of the rubber stamps. One that had the logo. One of them had the track listing.
Wow.
And then one of them had all these little pieces and parts. And so me and 2 interns would sit around with all these stamps, and each one we would hand stamp 5 to 7 times, and then move to the next one. So each one of the advances for this record is made individually for whoever got it.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't even have any. I have none left. I don't even know where.
Could you show the album again? The album.
The full one. This one?
What I really like about it is the typography on the side. I like that. And you leave the image all by itself. I love that.
Yeah. The typography was done by Intro in UK.
Okay.
And then I brought it into the US and then put the package together. We got some painting. I think one of the guys in the band is the painter who did the image. And then the records are pretty. And this was again Intro's artwork. Yeah.
Oh wow! Great.
There's 2 of them. I think the other one is the other one is the reverse of the first one.
That's beautiful.
So I can go really back far into time and bring out the Smithereens 7-inch box set. Spencer, you'd love this. You'd love this.
Yeah, I remember. I think I have that. Yeah. I have that somewhere.
This was done for RCA. We got a special permission to use the RCA Victor logo, even though it wasn't on RCA Victor, because they wanted it to feel, like an old release. So each record sleeve. This is really old. Each record sleeve has its own.
I have that. Sean, I have that, and a couple of images are in our 545 book. So,
okay.
Right. Some of those pictures are in the 545 book. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole record.
I didn't know
the whole record. Yeah. So the whole record was released as a series of 7 inches, and that segues to last year, working for this band Nefex. Who I did their album package, but this was a series of 7 inches that they did in a little box, and I did all of the individual singles, and then they released them as a box set.
That's beautiful.
So there's that, and then there's this one.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
So and then there's everything from working with the band Stone Sour. Doing these, I did a CD package for Stone Sour. It was 2 CDs that when you bought, it was part 1 and part 2, and so when you bought them both, they were constructed this digipack that actually 2 digipacks that can be folded to create a house.
Wow!
So when you get 2 of them.
Wow.
And because the album was called House of Gold and Bones. So you could actually build a little house out of the 2
oh my
CDs.
God, that's incredible.
Yeah. And then we did these picture discs. You can get it out. Yeah. So we did these picture discs. So printed records. And that's my image. This image is actually from a church, a burned down house and a burned down church in Maryland, near where my parents have a house. Wow. I was driving by and I saw this dilapidated old house, and I took pictures of it, and I ended up using it all throughout this project for Stone Sour.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So, and then I worked with War on some of these early things like Low Rider. I did the artwork and the design for Low Rider.
Wow, got it. Wow.
Yeah, there we go. So this is old. This has been around for a little while as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like a lot of the stuff I have that I've shown is all the stuff I've collected over time. A lot of stuff is in storage. But I'm still working. I'm working with bands now, like bands. Lennium is a band I'm working with right now, where we're building the album package.
Mm-hmm.
But I work with current stuff. A lot of that stuff is old classics. From the Stooges to Dream Theater and all that. But I do work on modern work as well. Modern artists as well.
Well, you certainly have the style that really seems to change up depending on the situation, where it's almost if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't think it was the same designer, but you kind of like that, because there's like no standard. Oh, that's definitely Sean Mosher-Smith's work. I mean, it goes all over the place with it, and I think that's really unique, because one of my complaints with a lot of bands musically is when every album is sonically the same. It's like, that's after 3 or 4 albums, you kind of lose interest. So what's your approach to deciding what direction you're going to take and changing it up with each project?
Well, it's funny. I struggled a lot to create or to try to create a signature look with my, like, what I love the best about what I do and all that. But working for a record company, as opposed to always being freelance, you kind of have to wear different hats. I was doing a lot of stuff with R&B and jazz and alternative music and straightforward rock and roll, everything from like Henry Mancini to Elvis to to some of these really just out there bands. And you realize that if you're working for a record company and you're in charge and you're responsible for the artists on the roster, you can't have one signature style. You can have elements and little pieces and parts that to you can tell it's something that you've done, but you have to change the style based on the music, and it all comes back to the music. I'll listen to the music. I work with a company now called Audio Machine. They do title music licensing and titles and trailer music and all that, and their catalog is ridiculous. They have so much artwork. So much music, and they release it like an album, and each one is a theme. So if you check out Audio Machine's website, you'll see I've done almost every one of their covers for the past couple of years. So going through it, you're going to see just a massive amount of stuff, and it's not all the same. Right. And you have to be inspired by the music first, I think, and I'm inspired by the people as well. Speaking to some of these artists, getting to know some of these artists that you're working with, you find out who they are, and hopefully you capture a piece of not only their music, but who the artist is when you're doing the artwork and the design for their record. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I was going to bring up that because, I worked with David Byrne and Talking Heads, which was for me being designers, and they being that work, it was like a free flow thing with the both of us. I went to Yale, they went to RISD. It were integrated and worked out. So I want to ask you that question. You probably, don't you get more excited working with musicians that have that eye, right? The visuality, and able to understand what you're doing, right? Rather than the client that, okay, just do it, right? You know what I'm saying?
It really depends. It depends on how I'm inspired by their music. So, some artists don't have that vision. Some artists don't. They're like, look, I stick to the studio. I stick to my music. I know nothing about art. Right. And in some of those situations, they're really beneficial because you can guide the visuals based on how you're hearing the music. And then there are some that have a really, really defined idea, and if you don't like that idea, it's really hard. It's really hard to put it together if you don't like it. And sometimes that happens, and you have to there's a little bit of convincing. Maybe you stand up for why you did something, and they'll listen, and sometimes they won't. And sometimes, you have to throw your hands up and say, okay, I'm just going to get this done. I'm going to make it look as great as I possibly can. But at the end of the day, it's not something that I'm really going to put in my book. But
I've got to tell you a story. I've told this but it's a great story. Fabulous Thunderbirds. I worked on Tough Enough, big multi-album, but they first signed, and they were going to put a picture on the front. And Jimmy Vaughn came to me with this beautiful piece of sculpted artwork by a Native American, and I said, "That's got to be the cover. That's it." And so he goes to a meeting at CBS. You know what this is like, Sean? It's like a major meeting at CBS, and they're going to talk about the album cover. And so Jimmy calls me up and he says, well, what do you think of the art? And I said, look, go in there. I never did this before, Sean. I said, go in there and tell him that is the cover. Don't ask him. That is the cover. Right. So he goes in. 3 hours later, I get a call from the A&R guy up at CBS International saying, Spencer, you're going to be fired. Well, guess what? 4 hours later, I got a call. He said that was the album cover. But I was willing to walk away from that cover. If they didn't do it. I didn't want my name on it because they're going to put some stupid photo on the front.
Right. Yeah.
That's the story, though. That's just
it happens.
I worked for CBS at one time too, and we had a nickname for it: CBS.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, we do thank you for your time, Sean Mosher-Smith. It was really great to talk to you and look at some of your designs. I'd like to see more. Maybe we can do a part 2 down the road. After a few weeks, because obviously in 3 weeks' time, you'll have 10 packages done.
Probably. I know I have 2. I actually have 3 right now that I should be finished by mid next week. So yeah,
cool. That would be great. That would be something that we've never done before, in which 3 weeks later we come back to you and say, all right, what have you done? So that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, part 2. Zach, part 2.
That would be great. But he's got 3 weeks to get it together.
All right. Give me 2. Give me 2 weeks and then 2 nights of sleep, and I'm good.
All right, great.
One question I want to ask before you leave is, Sean, give your viewpoint on vinyl. Vinyl coming back. Vinyl resurgence.
Is it coming back? I think it's been back now for a little while. I mean, for the past couple of years, I think it's come back strong. I mean, to the point where the reason it took so long for us to do this was because I was waiting for the vinyl to be pressed, because there's a backlog at all the presses around the world. In fact, I'm working on a package right now for this band, Millennium, that we need to get the packaging done within the next couple of weeks, so that they can actually release the vinyl, special edition vinyl of this in September. Yeah, that's how backlogged it is.
I just finished the vinyl, like I said, with Judith, and we had to get in early because I had to give her 2 months, at least 2 months of a play for a waiting list.
Yeah. Yep. So, I think it's back. It's back, and I think it's strong. There's some beautiful AI packaging that's coming out. I just got a book from this German artist. And it's like a 12-inch book with no record, and you download an app, you put the app, you hold your phone next to it, and the artwork lifts off the page through your phone. You can see it and plays the music. So the music exists only on your phone as you point it at the booklet. It's incredible. So that's that's the future. That's the future. I mean, that's one piece of the future of vinyl, but or of packaging in general. So.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to being with you and making vinyl next year also, Sean. It's a pleasure seeing you work too. Thank you.
Thank you.